Hey guys, for today's video, I'll be guiding you over how to build Zibai, who is the best main DPS for Lunar Crystallize based teams. Starting off with her kit, in short, she deals powerful Lunar Crystallize damage. Her skill infuses her normal attacks with Geo, her skill allows her to do a special skill once she accumulates enough of her special points, and she allows allies to trigger the new Lunar Crystallize reaction. The new Lunar Crystallize reaction is a variant of the Hydro Crystallize reaction that requires a not great character like Zibai or Columbina to activate it. Instead of creating a Hydro Shard that gives you a Hydro resistant shield when picked up, like the Hydro Crystallize reaction, it simply creates 3 small Geo turrets that are considered a Geo construct. Now, what makes the Lunar Crystallize reaction so good is that you can allow the Geo turrets to do Lunar Crystallize sub DPS every time you trigger the Lunar Crystallize reaction, meaning that unlike the Lunar Charge reaction, you don't have to wait for 2 seconds before doing a big chunk of damage. You can simply spam your powerful Geo and Hydro attacks and do a ton of Lunar Crystallize sub DPS. Here's how to save big when topping up for Genshin Impact's 6.2 banners. Lootbar.gg has a limited discount for the 6,480 Genesis Crystal Bundle, alongside a bunch of other discounts on different bundles, like the All-in-One Bundle and the Guaranteed Bundles. They also have a 10% off for new users coupon, and a 5 and a 3% off for returning users coupon. To save on your top-ups, go to lootbar.gg, choose a bundle, put your account information, then click Top Up Now. Then select your payment method, add or use a coupon code, then click Pay Now. In a couple of minutes, your discounted bundle should arrive. Now, lootbar.gg is trusted by creators like Genshin Impact and Gopa Certified, and that has a 4.9 rating on Trustpilot alongside a bunch of 5-star reviews. Also, join the Lootbar Christmas Draw event for a chance to get a 100% off coupon and other grand rewards. You can get a guaranteed win for the first draw, and the first purchase during the event grants 2 times Lootbar points. So if you want to save on topping up, go to lootbar.gg by clicking the link in the pinned comment or description. Also, the Lunar Crystallize reaction also scales off of EM and crits, similarly to the Lunar Charge reaction. So Zibai and other Lunar Crystallize DPS are also going to want a bunch of crits and EM. Also, she prefers Geo and Hydro teammates because her talent buffs her defense and EM, which is good because, like your typical Geo character, she's gonna want a bunch of defense because her attacks scale off of defense, but she'll also want a bit of EM since her DPS is also based off of the Lunar Crystallize reaction, which again scales off of EM. For her skill priorities, you'll want to level up her skill, then her character level, then her ultimate, then her normal attack, since the majority of her damage scaling is tied behind her skill. Leveling her up increases her defense and it provides crit damage. Her ultimate does a nice burst of damage, and her normal attacks have very bad scaling. For her stats, she's gonna want a 1 to 2 crit rate to crit damage ratio like usual, and she's gonna want minimum 2000 defense since that's how much she needs to buff the Lunar Crystallize reaction through her passive. For her EM, considering it'll be the lowest priority out of crit, defense, and EM, you'll only want a tiny bit of EM from weapons and artifacts since you'll be getting enough EM from her supports like Iluga, or from supportive EM sets like the Instructor sets or Silken Moon sets. For her ER, because her ultimate isn't too important, she won't even want to build any ER and will prefer to use her ultimate every rotation. For her artifacts, she's gonna want the Unveiling sets because it's the best set for an on-field Lunar reaction based DPS like Zibai. It increases crit rate by 30% and it provides 80 EM, which will be 2 really good stat boosts since the Lunar Crystallize reaction scales off of crits and EM. For an alternative, the Marishusei Hunter set when ran with Furina will also be good because Furina will make it so that Zibai can get the 36% crit rate boost. For her main stats, she's gonna want defense percentage on her sets and Goblet since she scales heavily off of defense, and then crit for her circlet. For her substats, she's gonna want to prioritize her crit, then defense percentage, then EM. For her weapons, her signature will be her best because it provides a bunch of crit, defense, and Lunar Crystallized damage. For an alternative, Shiori's signature will be incredibly good because it provides defense and crits. Alhaitham's signature will also be a top tier choice because it provides crit and it increases skill and normal attack damage based on the user's EM. The Harbinger of Dawn would surprisingly also be a really good choice because it provides a bunch of crit stats. Cylonan's signature will also be good because it provides a bunch of defense. The Flute will also be really good because it's a craftable weapon and it provides a bunch of defense as well. The Cinnabar Spindle will also be good because of its defense main stat, but other than that, weapons with a bunch of crit will be the next best thing. Also, weapons with a bunch of EM will be decent since she does scale a bit off of it, and the Traveler's Sandy Sword will also be decent because of its low but cheap defense main stat. For her teams, she'll want to be played in Lunar Crystallized teams. She's gonna want a Hydro Applicator, a Geo Applicator, then a Flex slot, with one of these characters being a Moonsign character. For her Hydro Applicator, Columbina will be the best since she provides massive lunar reaction buffs, powerful lunar reaction based DPS, and she's a Moonsign character, with Aino also being really good because she provides EM, buffs lunar crystallized damage at C6, and she's a Moonsign character. But other good Hydro Applicators like Furina with Cylonin, Chinchuo, or Yelan would do just fine. For her Geo Applicators, Iluga at C2 would be the best since he provides a bunch of damage bonuses, a bit of EM, and he's a Moonsign character. But Shiori and Goro would also be incredibly good, especially at higher constellations, with Zhongli, Cylonin with Furina, and Albedo also being viable. For her flex slots, characters like Inefa who can do lunar charge sub DPS and is a Moonsign character, or Mona who can provide Hexray buffs for Albedo and a bunch of damage bonuses would also be viable. For her constellations, her C1 increases the amount of times you can do her special skill, and then increases her infused Geonormal attacks damage, which will increase her DPS by around 16%. For her C2, it increases lunar crystallized damage, and her infused Geonormal attacks damage, which will increase her DPS by around 24%. For her C4, it doesn't reset her normal attack chain, and that increases her infused Geonormal attacks damage, which will increase her DPS by around 11% like most C4s. For her C6, it'll make it so that she consumes all of her special points every time she uses her special skill, and her special skill damage will be buffed significantly, to the point where this constellation buffs her damage by around 63%. For my investment recommendations, I recommend going for C2 R0 over C1 R1, but I recommend getting her R1 over her C1. This is because her C2 is a really good investment and is definitely worth getting if you can afford it, but if you can't, you're better off investing into her R1 than her C1. Now, should you summon on Zibai? Well, as of right now, Zibai is a top tier DPS, and she'll be able to dominate in endgame content catered towards the lunar crystallized reaction, but her teams are a tad bit restricted, since she really needs Columbina for her to reach DPS numbers that are close to other lunar reaction based DPS, even if some of her best teammates like Goro and Iluga are 4 stars. Now, because her DPS is even worse than that of other lunar reaction based DPS, there's a chance that she'll be the first one of the lunar reaction based DPS to be power crept in a couple of patches. Now, there's also a chance that Zibai will actually be buffed in the future by other lunar crystallized characters like perhaps Sandrone, considering Zibai is the only dedicated 5-star lunar crystallized character. Regardless, this is obviously all speculation, and Zibai's future pull value is largely a mystery for now, so I wouldn't stress about it too much and would only summon on Zibai if you can invest into the lunar crystallized reaction by getting characters like Columbina, Iluga, and potentially Sandrone. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you wish to know more, you can click on the video to the right. With that being said, goodbye.